Hey friend, welcome to Ask Dr. Betters. We get a lot of questions about divorce and remarriage, and let me just highlight a few of the key scriptural principles. Number one, God hates divorce, all divorce. Number two, God has permitted divorce under very strict circumstances only because, as he says, the hardness of our hearts. Those strict circumstances are very limited, very strict. One is adultery, and the second one is desertion of a believer by an unbeliever. Desertion carries its own slate of questions as to what constitutes desertion. When a believer is married to an unbeliever, and the non-believer no longer wants to be married to them, then the believer is free to divorce under some very, very strict guidelines. I don't want to get on a rabbit trail there because I want to try to answer this question. Can you please answer this question for me? I am in my third marriage. My current husband and I have asked for forgiveness for adultery. We have been together for 20 years. Are we living in a state of perpetual sin? And should we get divorced? Or does God forgive us? I was divorced for different reasons, but not for acceptable reasons in the Bible. Does God forgive us? Should we stay married or get divorced? Thank you so very much for answering this question. God bless you. Absolutely not. You should not get divorced because God hates divorce. Are you living in perpetual sin? I don't know enough about your situation to answer that question. You could be. But when I say perpetual sin, you're living in the consequences of immoral decisions. The fact that you're on your third marriage indicates that you've made some very serious mistakes in choosing a mate for yourself over the years. You probably shouldn't trust yourself when it comes to that kind of decision without getting extensive counsel from a multitude of counselors to make sure you're navigating in the right way. See, the Bible tells us that when we marry and divorce for unscriptural reasons, which you're kind of sounding like that's what you did, that when we remarry after that divorce, we remarry in adultery. And that's true. You live in the consequences of an adulterous relationship, whatever that means, however that works itself out. So yes, there are consequences to remarrying unscripturally, just as there are consequences to divorcing unscripturally. I don't know enough about your situation to give you a definitive answer, but I do know this. There is no sin that is unforgivable except rejecting Jesus Christ. That sin is unforgivable. So our decisions that we make in relationships, the sins that we commit, even unscriptural divorces, God can and does forgive. But we live with the consequences, if not ourselves, in our children and our children's children. The consequences of unscriptural divorces and unscriptural remarriages carry on for generations. Sometimes 3 and 4 and 5 generations down the road. So we're not only making decisions for ourselves, we're making decisions for our offspring, for our heritage, for our lineage, for years to come. I would seek counsel if I were you, because the fact that you're asking whether or not you should divorce indicates to me that there sounds like there's problems in your current marriage. But divorce is not some simple, you just throw it out there and say, well, maybe because we married unscripturally, we should get a divorce. Absolutely not. You're a married woman. You're married to this man. Your commitment to him should be for life, regardless of what consequences you have to bear in your life. Marriage is sacred. You can't just get into marriage, to divorce, and get into marriage and divorce, as you have now 3 times. At some point, this must end. Not the marriage, but the commitments to a divorce that seem to come to you so easily. You need to fight that urge. You need to honor the sacredness of your vows. And by no means should you and your husband consider a divorce without proper counsel, without proper multitude of counselors, where either adultery or desertion becomes the grounds. So I hope I've answered your question. It's not as simple as it sounds, but divorce is never, ever God's perfect will. Hope this helps.
Hi, my name is Melissa Weisenfels, Executive Director here at MARKINC Ministries. Thank you so very much for your continued support of this video series. Ask Dr. Betters is not meant to be a substitute for professional counseling, but instead is designed to extract biblical principles around the questions being asked. We encourage you to seek professional counseling if needed.